With all that said, let's talk Nintendo because we have a lot to get into, including some new Switch 2 leaks, this time by way of potential alleged Switch 2 accessories. So people are freaking out about these because accessory companies across the globe have started posting what they're calling Switch 2 cases. And this kind of started with a company called D Brand, who posted a case called the Kill Switch 2 case. And they are claiming, they spoke to The Verge, and they're claiming that these are the exact specifications of the Switch 2. We can't tell you how we got them, but these are the real ones. And they have this case that would fit a Switch that largely aligns with the specifications of the leaks from 3 months ago in September when we got those alleged images from a factory in China of the Switch 2, which looked like a slightly larger screen with some more oval-shaped Joy-Cons, an extra button on the right Joy-Con, and one of the main differences apparently from Switch 1 is the magnetic way that the Joy-Cons attach rather than the rail sliding system from Switch 1. So it lines up really close with that. These companies are saying it's real. We mentioned very briefly last week that Satisfy posted a mock-up of the Switch 2. This trailer was then quickly taken down. So this stuff is happening everywhere, left and right. And Brian, you said that you could talk about D-Brand specifically and how they kind of have a history with this stuff.
Yeah, so I don't want to, characterize them, but I would say, and they would probably say that their whole sort of vibe on social media and as a company is sort of just like casually antagonistic. Ye-
Yeah, that's
Years
fair.
ago, they were selling not off-brand, but D-brand PS5 plates. This,
Oh
those big,
yeah.
uh, car panels you put on the side of your massive console. And I think Sony sent them a cease and desist, and so they sort of just mocked it publicly. That's just kind of their vibe, It worked for them, I guess. And in this situation specifically, they were just like, "Yeah, we got the Switch render inside of our thing. What are you going to do about it?" And I don't know what they're going to do about it because Nintendo is sort of, I don't know, historically litigious, I would say, to be
Mhm.
to be soft about it at the very least. So it's really like it's not even if there's smoke, there's fire anymore. Like the fire is very clearly burning on the horizon at this point. We've been
Yes.
watching it grow all year long. We've been smelling it all year long. Now we're rubbing our eyes. The Switch 2 is almost here, or whatever they're going to call it. Like it is on the way. It's going to be here. It'll be officially unveiled, to my knowledge, at any time now. Probably not this year, but probably in the next few weeks or months. Like this is going to be a real thing. There's just too much out there right now for them to not just say, "Yep, it's happening. It's real." We know that they said they were going to announce it before the end of the fiscal
Mhm.
quarter 2025 or whatever, March,
Yeah, so
basically,
March
right?
31. Yeah.
March 31. So it's on the way. People have it, or they've held it, or they've held 3D renders of it and made peripherals for it. So
Or they've stuck their hand in a box and touched
yeah,
something
Yeah, hand
that looks
style. Yeah.
like
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's just very funny to me because and some of you know this. I'll I'll give everyone a little peek behind the curtain. But several times this year, IGN has sort of gotten wind from somewhere that like, oh, maybe this will be the week that we hear about it, and a bunch of us have put together like the plan for what to do when that happens, and we've rehearsed like a live show and a live reaction that
Mhm.
just didn't like. I have multiple Google Docs. I've been in rehearsals, set up cameras and lightings for things that just
I've
were
had a
like,
I've
yeah,
had a bag packed all year.
yes,
I got
Ready to
a
go.
I got a Google
Just
Calendar
in
invite
case.
to a meeting for one of these while I was moving across the country. Like I'm in a
hmm
car, it's like the beginning of October or whatever, and I get a
yep.
notification on my phone. I've been invited to like a Switch planning meeting. I haven't been watching the news at all. I'm like, wait, what? Did
It's
they
like
no.
we've received reputable intel that this is the week that the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Super Switch will be
And then it was an
revealed, and
alarm
because
clock. And
yeah,
that's what they
and then
showed us
and
instead.
The
and then it was
alarm
Son of a
alarm
clock!
switch. That son of a switch.
Alarm!
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
just for again, for transparency, the Nintendo fans out there have been like excited for this thing all year. We've been
Mhm.
excited for this thing. For us specifically, as like a work functionality, it causes us to pivot on a dime and go like, is this the day? Is this the day? And so when this stuff happened just a few days ago, that all that muscle memory came back, and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, it's happening. It's happening right now. But we're like a week away from Christmas, and the timing doesn't feel right. But I guess for Dbrand, they're like, hey, screw it. Today's the day.
Yeah, let's be real. It's working for them. They wanted people like us to talk about it on these podcasts so people would look up these cases. It's completely playing into their hands, but
Yep.
we got to talk about it. And Reb, you were digging through some of this stuff earlier today. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with sort of the sentiment of this panel that look, earlier this year we did a show where Logan and I were cautioning everybody to just be very careful with leaks, take them with a grain of salt. I still think that's true, but in this case what we have is a whole bunch of different sources all sort of coalescing around the same idea of this next switch. And they're not, it's not a situation where it's just a bunch of journalists who are kind of whispering to each other in the same Discord chat somewhere. It's accessory makers, it's people who would have reason to have this information, and the ways in which it's getting out there. It seems like this is probably pretty real or close to real. One of the asterisks that I have seen on this that is worth noting is that some of this information, maybe not Dbrand stuff, but some of the other information that's come out that sort of corroborated theirs is that it might be a little old, like it might be like 2023 kind of information that's sort of seeping out. And so while I'm kind of expecting what we just saw from Dbrand to be the thing, I'm always open to the fact that there could still be a weird surprise in there, especially like maybe a less visible one, right? Like the most interesting thing about this is the magnetic thing for the Switch Joy-Cons, but the thing that really jumped out to me about this design is that there's a whole bonus button.
There is.
Did you see the new button?
A C button on the right Joy-Con underneath where the home button is, and this is just a mock-up, right? We don't know if it's real. I'm not saying this is real or what it will actually look like, but my best guess for what that extra button could be is it's boring, but I think it could just be a capture button for the right Joy-Con. So if you're playing with split Joy-Con and everyone has their own capture button just in case something cool happens, but I don't know, or it could be something else. It could be some other share button to like a Miiverse or something entirely different that we're not even foreseeing right now. Yeah, I think that this seems pretty legit of what the Switch 2 is going to look like. And again, it looks exactly like what we saw back in September. But the other possibility as well, maybe they're just all basing it off that leak in September. And that's not real, but that seems kind of unlikely. I think that we're all kind of guessing this is going to be an iterative upgrade, and this basically confirms that. And to me, the more exciting stuff is not the hardware design, it's what's under the hood this time around. I think we're all in agreement. We love the Nintendo Switch. We want them to keep up with this hybrid design. It's just what are the extra bells and whistles going to be that push the software to be more of a PS4 level rather than a Switch 1 level, which I think a lot of us are getting kind of tired of in 2024. So these leaks, if this is what it is, I still feel like the biggest surprises are still left because it is about the software. It's about what is a next-gen Mario game going to look like. So yeah, this is fine. This is just the next step on the way to next quarter's reveal. Jada,
can I share something with the class?
Go for it, Reb.
Sure, go for it.
When Logan asked me to take a look at these leaks and I was going through them, all I could think of was this stupid meme video that I put in the show doc if Red wants to pull this thing up. It's like from 5 years ago. It's this dumb meme thing that was going around, but it just kept making me think of the fact that this is just a slightly bigger Switch. Like, yeah, there are some small differences, but this is just the same thing. Sorry, now I'm killing dead air in this very awkward way, but I very much wanted to show this to you.
All I was gonna say is if we're getting, magnetic Joy-Cons, why not just, put a little magnet on top as well, and you can attach another screen, and then we can get these DS games to the Nintendo console, the Nintendo Online.
Bigger than before.
This is so weird.
Do you remember this?
It's a bigger
no,
egg.
I do not.
They put the egg in the vinegar and then they take it out and then they say bigger than before and then they put it in like maple syrup and they take it out again and it's like slightly bigger.
That's nice. That's so weird.
Bigger than before.
Well, okay, so I will say, first of all, I love Jada's idea of like turning it into a DS with a magnet. I feel like.
Can you imagine if they just added like a triangular screen you could add on and you get your own Triforce? Like
a triangle screen?
A triangular screen, yes. Why not?
That sounds like something that'd be like in a kids show, like the fake phones they all carry around at school.
You guys act like Nintendo hasn't done weird things.
Yeah, that is admittedly the sort of nutty thing. I could see them
the
coming out
tri-switch.
with the tri switch. What do we think? Do we have guesses on the name? I mean, I
Oh
remember when we
God.
were calling it the.
Yes.
I remember when you were calling it the Super Nintendo Switch, and I really liked that, but I
Yeah.
don't think they'll do that. I think the Super days are over.
I have
yeah.
recently come to like the son of a switch. Because I think that's just
Data.
a great what? Son of a switch. That sounds great. It's the offspring, it's following
it.
in
We
its
can call it
footsteps
that.
of its I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, that's the messier part of these leaks is that now there's people that are either telling the truth or just trying to hop on the bandwagon of all this stuff that seems reputable by saying, I have one, but I'm not going to say anything until Christmas Day because that's when I know more people will have one. And they're just stringing people along and they're claiming they know what the name is. They're claiming they know what the launch lineup is. That's the stuff I still buy no stock in.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's
no.
these it's these images, it's these specs. That's the stuff that I really do buy this time around. But don't buy into any of the other stuff that's floating around just kind of to latch on the coattails of this.
No. We won't know the official launch library until somebody takes a like 3/4 sideways blurry potato cam shot of a Reddit post of a list of games that someone else made up. That's the only way we'll officially know the launch lineup for the Nintendo Switch to Son of a Switch.
Remember, if you type up all the video games that you want, put them on a Word doc, and then print them off and take a
And
picture
add
of them, that means they're
confidential.
real.
Do not release on the top. You have to add
not
that
release.
too.
What you have to do, and they always forget this step, is you have to crumble it into a ball and then throw it in a wishing well. Otherwise, it doesn't count. It's not going to come true. No. So my whole thing with this, and I feel like this has always been me with Nintendo, and I'm sure a lot of you agree, is that I'm constantly torn between wanting them to do weird, crazy, imaginative things that I've never possibly been able to foresee, and doing something totally safe that will make them money and keep them in business so they can keep making me games and toys and stuff forever. Right? Like all the leaks we've seen for the Switch 2, I've been kind of like, yep, that's the Switch 2. It's got, hopefully better build quality on the Joy-Cons, hopefully a better quality screen, hopefully better, more power under the hood. But other than that, I'm not really seeing anything. This was our April Fool's Day video airing right now, by the way. I'm not really seeing anything that's making me go like, wow, that's the next level of innovation from Nintendo, right? But at the same time, like, iterate on something. The last time they deviated so hard from one thing to the other was the Wii to the Wii U, and the Wii U felt like a prototype for the Switch, and it died so the Switch could live, really. And so I'm okay with them doing more of the same, and I think they'll get weird in the margins. They'll do peripherals, they'll do like add-ons, they'll do strange games. Alarmo is one of those things none of us had on a bingo card. Like they'll always do stuff like that. And so, yeah, I don't know. How do you all feel about that? Like, does this feel too safe or?
No, I kind of feel like we've been talking about this a lot this year, that Nintendo in generations tends to go in pairs, Game Boy to Game Boy Advance, and then N64 and GameCube, NES to Super Nintendo. Like there's always kind of this successor console that is iterative and largely similar in features and design. It's just powered up comparatively to the last generation. And I'm fine with that this time around. And especially following such a massively successful generation, I think this is just the right move. And it's fun to want new, crazy, off the wall Nintendo things. But I think that the smarter decision for them, and ultimately what will be better for everyone, is just to switch to, and is just this iterative step that is a more powerful hardware. And like you said, they're always going to be weird. We talked about it, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. Labo, Ring Fit Adventure, Mario Kart Live Circuit. There was no shortage of weird stuff this generation, and it will continue to be like that, even if the hardware itself isn't. And I think it's just smarter for the hardware to maybe play it a little safer, and then they get weird in the margins and the stuff that they're not hinging their whole business on Labo. Like that can be a weird thing that doesn't matter if it only sells a few 100,000 copies. It can be kind of a flop, and it's just a fun thing they tried. So it doesn't really bother me. I am looking forward to just a more powerful Switch. A little worried about the size. I already think the OLED is really big in the hands, and an inch larger. Oh man, that's going to be a beefy thing to carry around.
I
The joke's
struggle with
on
my
you
Steam
guys.
Deck.
The joke's on you guys. The next Switch is just going to be all Labo. It's all going to be cardboard based.
It's just
They're gonna make so much money on their margin for how much it costs to produce versus sell. just going to be
Well, it'll
all
be
lava.
easier to recycle when it fails if that's
Exactly.
the case.
Logan, you pointed out the Game Boy Advance change. I was thinking maybe a better point of comparison is the Nintendo DS to 3DS, because if you put those two systems side by side, like the 3DS just looks like a bigger DS. There's like some very small variations in like the buttons and a few other things, but for the most part, it is the same thing. It's just bigger than before. and
Yes.
but it was a significantly different system in like several ways, like even just not just the 3D, but there was a whole bunch of extra functionality that came with the 3DS. And so I'm very much looking forward to their reveal, even if I won't be especially surprised when the shape of it is just sort of the same. I'm hoping that the announcements that come with it as far as what they can do with the Switch 2, rhymed, that was nice, are going to be really interesting and exciting, I hope.
Yeah. And I think like what's really important, like if you're listening to the show or you're on the show, you understand the difference between like a 3DS game and a DS game, right? Like there was that line in the sand that was created at one point where you realized this plays exclusive software, but it's also backwards compatible with previous software that you own. Maybe you had some digital library games at that point, like DSiWare and such. That's going to be the biggest hurdle for them, or at least the thing they need to be the most clear about with the Switch 2, is that this is going to theoretically, hopefully, right, play brand new software, but also be backwards compatible with your massive library of Switch 1 games that you've been amassing for almost 8 years at this point. And so they're going to need that thing where you can very clearly say to a consumer, to that, hypothetical grandma at GameStop that we invent every holiday season that's just out there shopping for her grandkids, where they'll be able to know immediately, like, okay, this plays these games and also plays these games. My old Switch doesn't play this game and this game because this is new, right? So that's why I think like a big number next to it, like just calling it Switch 2 might be the best bet.
Yeah.
Like
they will not. Nice try, Brian.
You don't think so?
Under no circumstances will they just slap a 2 on it.
I'm so on the fence. Go for it, Jada.
I was saying I wouldn't be surprised if they did it too. I'm kind of with Brian. Just like
I don't think
they need. I don't think Nintendo A doesn't have a track record for it, but I wouldn't also put them. That could also be the zig that we're not expecting them to zag and actually just do that for once and add a number to it.
they're so allergic to that kind of thing. I cannot imagine it.
Can I say that it's less that I think Nintendo will do that because historically they haven't done that, and more that I think that they might have to because statistically people are getting dumber? Is that okay to say?
I think Nintendo would not care.
You don't think so?
The thing. I think they're gonna do the thing that they think makes sense, no matter how.
Sure.
Like, surely somebody in like a marketing group told them that the new Nintendo 3DS XL was a terrible name or something. Like, surely someone sat them down and patiently explained that to them. And it did not matter. So I agree with you that they should just maybe slap a 2 on it, especially because everyone's already kind of been calling it that. But I don't think there's any way.
I will say, though, it's kind of a new era for them in some ways in terms of this stuff than it was in the 3DS and Wii U era. I think under Nintendo's current leadership, they are more by the books. I'm not saying they're not weird. We've established very much they are, but just in some of their marketing decisions and some of the ways they handle certain things, they're more by the books. What they call the Super Mario Brothers movie? The Super Mario Brothers movie. That's what they called that thing. That is as basic as it gets. Their Nintendo Directs, they used to have Iwata holding a banana and Star Fox puppets and all this weird stuff, and now it is just from one trailer to the next. Here's a face on the screen. Please enjoy the next presentation. It is snappy, it is quick, it is clear. So I never before would I have said Nintendo would just call a system something with a 2 on it. This is the first time where I say I think the people in place there now might do it, but they might stick to company tradition and not. I'm completely split.
What
believe it either way.
If they call it a Switch 2, I will dress up as Luigi on the next podcast I'm on after that.
I'll do that
awesome.
for free. For no reason whatsoever.
We've done that multiple times this year already.
Yeah.
So. That's the only costume I have. It's the only bet I can make.
But wait, Logan. So what if they call the next Super Mario Brothers movie the new Super Mario Brothers movie XL 3D?
And all the art's really boring and the music is bland, and then they make 6 of those in a row before they make the new movie.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, look, So, I mean, we don't really have a lot of stuff sort of to compare this to because Nintendo doesn't usually do this kind of stuff outside of, like we said before, the handheld line. But like on the PlayStation side of things, they just keep adding a new number. That seems to be working okay for them, right?
Mhm.
Apple does this. They're like, guess what? Guess who's here? It's the 16.
Yeah.
We skipped 9, I think, for some reason, but otherwise, here we are.
Mhm.
So, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, maybe that's what you have to do now.
It's
Like,
the
you just
smartest move. I agree with you. But I
It's
just don't
boring.
think Nintendo's gonna do it.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
I would prefer like even like Switch Pro. We've said so many times, or Super Nintendo Switch is like it's very cute. You know, I don't know if it's gonna if that conveys the same stuff to consumers, but like yes, I agree. Calling it the Nintendo Switch 2 would be really boring. But
Yeah.
like what are they gonna do here?
There we
There we
go.
go.
That's
There,
perfect.
that's what we
it.
want, yeah.
Perfect.
That's a
Super
perfect
disastrous
Red.
amalgamation of logos Red has on the screen right now of
I love
every
it.
word they've like ever used in
It's got
some of these things.
Knuckles.
And Knuckles.
It's
This is
got
from a user
Knuckles
named
and
ZapTap. It
Knuckles.
says
And
Super New
Knuckles.
Mini Power Nintendo 23DS Lite Micro XLD DLL EU Boy Virtual Advance SP Pocket Player and Knuckles Color Cube and Watch Entertainment System.
Color Cube 64 and watch.
Yes,
that is
and then
great.
I think is that the and now
Is that
now with-
featuring
now
Devil
featuring
May Cry
Dante?
guy? Yeah, I think that's what that is.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Nice.
Amazing.
That
Good,
is
Sure.
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
I
don't
think
know.
we're more likely. I would speculate. I don't think they would ever do a Switch Pro because I think if I'm putting myself in Nintendo brain logic, I think Pro is they would
Sounds
consider
bad.
that. It feels like they're catering to a more exclusive gamer market, and I don't think they would ever want to do that.
Right.
I also don't think they'll copy things that they've done before. I don't think they'll do Super. I don't think they'll do New or whatever. Switch New. Ugh.
Please don't do new.
I
Please
think
don't
the
do
most
new.
It's the
likely thing
worst.
we'll see is something just very uniquely Nintendo. Like I remember like something more akin to the Wii U, like the fact that they put that U on the end and tried to explain it to people. I very much think that that's what not that they'll do U again like a Switch U, though I guess that would be something. But I think they'll come up with some very Nintendo cutesy moniker, and
It's gonna
that's
be
what we'll see.
it's gonna be the Switch 2, but they're gonna spell it TOO. It's not gonna have a number. It's gonna be Switch 2.
also.
Honestly, maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Mewtwo?
Well,
No, Mewtwo
Yeah,
actually
Mewtwo.
is
That
spelled
does
like
have
a
It's the number
number.
two
Has a
for some
number in it.
reason.
No,
Because
Yeah,
because the
just-
scientists in
number.
Pokemon were less creative.
Mhm.
Wait, has
Mewtwo.
Nintendo ever done the 2 thing? I feel like they have. I mean,
Just
they've done
2DS.
yeah,
That's-
two-
They've done it in
but that
games.
wasn't
Yeah.
that wasn't
2DS and 3DS.
TOODS.
Oh,
The
that.
two.
no, they haven't done TOO.
TOO.
No.
Oh no, no.
I don't know.
No.
They've
I
done.
think
I mean,
that's- I
Banjo
think it's-
Tooie.
Yeah. hmm
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
closest.
that's probably it though. So yeah, we'll see what the name is. And Brian, going back to what you were saying about differentiating the software on the 3DS, they quite literally did it where they put that nub on the side of the cartridge, so you couldn't fit it in a regular Nintendo DS. You had to fit the
Oh,
3DS
yeah.
cartridge, and they're so oddly shaped. And I could honestly see them doing that again with Switch 2 cartridges, just to really, even if you make the mistake, you buy the Switch 2 game at the store, you get home, you have a Switch OLED. Oh, this literally does not fit in this cartridge slot. I could see them just slapping
Or,
that thing on there again too.
Like
I
for
wonder
people,
if anybody ever broke off that nub and saw if it still worked or not.
I'm sure.
Like,
yeah,
I
people like
guarantee you
8
they
Switch
did,
cartridges.
yes.
I'm sure they did it. Yeah.
but I guess like for people who purchase their games digitally, which I do, then like I don't know. Theoretically, if you try to buy a Switch 2 game on a Switch, maybe it would just be like, no, you can't do that. Like it just
Well, they're
literally
hopefully
wouldn't
not
let
in the
you-
store. Hopefully
It'll
they don't
probably
just
be-
drop
yeah.
them
Pops
in
up an
there.
image of Mario with his hand out. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. So we will see. We ended the year like we started it, though, speculating wildly about the Nintendo Switch successor, and I can't wait for early next year when we'll finally have some answers.